Well, New York Giant fans, what we expected is now a reality, right? Well, maybe for some. I don't know pre-show if I said that, not pre-show, but like in the preview of the Eagle game, if I said that Daboll was going to come back or not. I think I probably mentioned the reports, but um, Shane is back, and Shane and Daboll are back. That's just what happened. The New York Giants ownership, Mara and Tish, got together on the Monday, January 6th in the morning, and they released a joint statement. There's multiple layers of this to break down. I'm not going to really talk about the Eagle game. There's really no reason to. Malik Neighbors obviously did cross the Giant record of going out and getting, I think, the most amount of receptions by a rookie for the Giants in history, or most receptions in history. I don't remember which one, but still a remarkable record for Mr. Malik Neighbors. But other than that, there's like not much to talk about the Eagle game. They lost. That's what they did. But first thoughts. I mentioned in the preview when we were talking about all these different scenarios, I had situations from best to worst. All of them being fired was one, and then the next three were like bad, but it was like what's worse, what's not worse, whatever. The next was all being kept. The next one was Daboll retained and Shane fired, and then the next one would be Shane retained and Daboll fired. Obviously, the last two situations did not happen, neither the first one, but the second one obviously has occurred. And, it's pretty tone deaf by the New York Giants to make this move. I don't think they know what they're setting themselves up for. I really don't. This year was by far the worst year I've watched as a Giant fan covering the team. Now, in 2017, right, I was not on YouTube. I was not on fucking social media other than Instagram, on a fucking Android phone. But it was just my personal account. That didn't matter. I watched that season partly because I was in Pennsylvania and they would not show like a lot of the Giant games. They didn't show the Giants Cardinals game. They didn't show the Giants Bucks game. They didn't show the Giants Seahawks game. So a lot of games I couldn't watch because they were, the Eagles were on or the Steelers were on or something like that. 2021 was pretty bad. There's no doubt about that. 2021 was pretty bad. But you saw change come after that season. You saw change come after 2017. The Giants not having to change anything about their head coach and general manager positions after the worst year in franchise history and some of the most embarrassing shit that went on in NFL history. Retaining those guys is a slap in the face to the fans, and you kind of put yourself out there as, there are certain perceptions you shouldn't care about, and John Mara, in my opinion, cares about the wrong perceptions. But coming off of a 3-14 season, I'll throw this at you guys, and we could talk about again the different layers. Coming off a 3-14 season, you got only about $57 million in cap space. I don't know who they could cut, to be honest with you. I haven't even looked at that list, which usually I would by now, but it just doesn't interest me because we're running it back. But we have turned into, and I hate saying this, but it's kind of like we're veering in that direction. We've kind of turned into the New York Jets, because unless you get some high price free agent or some sort of an attractive piece, if you will, like Aaron Rodgers was that way for the Jets. That's why Alan Lazard signed. That's why Bakhtiari was going to sign. Obviously, injuries have derailed that. That's why Tyron Smith signed, and that's why all those different guys signed. Now, does it work all the time? No. The Jets obviously jetted out. Aaron Rodgers is washed, and all these different things happened. But per se, that there's at least they had Aaron Rodgers. They had an off season and they had high hopes. which sometimes, that's not great because if you have low expectations, those are better because you know that the team is going to suck or whatever. I asked this in the Twitter spaces. I asked this to my guys on the live stream. What is John Mara selling to the fan base for 2025? I really want to know that. Like, you can't sell the past. Like, it's very hard to do that when 100-year anniversary and you stunk. You went 3-14, the worst in franchise history. You went 0-6 in division, by the way. 0-6 in division. Not to mention, our next year's schedule is completely fucking brutal. Let's look at the 2025 Giants opponents. Home and away. And it's, again, as I said, completely fucking brutal. Not that we didn't know this before, but I'm just making a point. Obviously, you have the rivals. You have the Dallas Cowboys, you have the Eagles, you have the Commanders. We'll see what Dallas does. The Eagles will be the Eagles, and the Commanders, I think they'll take another step up. At home, you got the Packers, right? I believe they're in the playoffs because, even though Jordan Love got injured, I don't know if he came back in that game, though. Yeah, the Packers are the 7th seed. They're the 7th seed, and I think the Seahawks were just eliminated, but the Packers got in there. I like their team. They're a good team. The Minnesota Vikings, right? The team that absolutely shit on us in week 1. Just imagine now it's going to be with Sam Darnold possibly coming back, Kevin O'Connell, and then Brian Daboll and a rookie quarterback on the other side. That rookie quarterback, it may not even be a rookie quarterback. It may be a fucking veteran. Kansas City, we're going to get trounced. I don't see the Giants upgrading so much talent in that span that they're going to be competitive with the Chiefs. The Chargers, right? People want to come at me and debate me about, every how many years we switch a coach, and it wasn't that unstable, over in LA because they had Anthony Lynn, and he wasn't very good. The special teams was always bad under him. The defense was terrible under Brandon Staley. He got fired, and Jim Harbaugh. You bring the right guy in, and that's what happens, right? Situations pan out because you make those right decisions. And just want to let you guys know the Giants actually missed on Jim Harbaugh because Joe Ortiz. Now, of course, sometimes you could say what's right or what's wrong about a certain situation, but Joe Ortiz, the general manager of the Chargers now, he walked in the Giants interview, was a little nervous, but his end game was bringing in a guy by the name of Jim Harbaugh as the head coach. So, I'm just saying, I think the Giants would be a much better football team with Jim Harbaugh as the head coach. And, Jim Harbaugh plays the Giants level of football. He loves the running game. Obviously, Herbert's still doing things over there. And, they're in the playoffs. You can't really fault them. They're the fucking 5th seed. So, after how many years, Brandon Staley and Justin Herbert, they're not getting to the playoffs. Well, he made it happen. The San Francisco 49ers, I thought they just had a bad year. Christian McCaffrey and all those injuries, so it's kind of like a relapse. The Chicago Bears away, it's going to be a new head coach, so that's probably one of the only wins you could maybe see, but Caleb could also get better if they get a Ben Johnson in there, a Liam Cohen, Cliff Kingsbury, because I know he worked with him at USC, so he's a guy that you look out for, and that's not even a surefire win. You have the Broncos, the second year of Sean Payton with Bo Nix. Bo Nix did really well this year, a guy that the Giants passed up on. You have the Detroit Lions. You're probably going to get your asses handed to you. Las Vegas, right now they're keeping Antonio Pierce, so that's maybe a team that you could beat. The New Orleans Saints, really don't know what direction they're headed in. And the New England Patriots. So you probably have 3 to 4 wins on that schedule, and I can't say that you're getting any of them at home. Maybe the Cowboys or the Commanders, depending on the situation. Away is, and you know what? The Giants play better away too because they literally had one home win the entire fucking season. And, they had the 2 wins on the road against Cleveland, which I attended. And they went to Seattle and obviously won against Geno Smith. So that's the Giants' 2025 schedule, right? So when I talk about that Mara cares about the wrong type of perception, he was caring, and some Giant fans, like the older heads, tend to think this way. I don't know if the younger people think this way. I don't think they do. but just bringing up for shit's sake is, oh, you can't fire a head coach every 2-3 years. You can't, like, do not give me the words stability. Do not give me the word um, continuity, because those are bad words to use in this scenario. Those are good words, but those are bad words to use in this scenario because there's nothing stable about what's happening this offseason. And continuity is good. Like that's a positive connotation on a word, and you're trying to use it in the Giants tense, which sucks. So for, again, all the people who say, oh, you can't change head coaches and GMs every 2-3 years, you got some nice candidates. Not even candidates. We'll talk about the candidates because that's something we got to get into. But let's see. The Chargers I just mentioned, right? The Commanders, I mean, they had a total change of ownership, and they turned it around in 1 year thanks to picking a very good quarterback. If the Patriots get it right eventually, nobody's going to give a shit. Let's see. The Lions, that's one right there. Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia kind of fucked over the situation, and then Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell in there. It's a mixture of, it doesn't take 3 years to it takes up to 3 years to rebuild in the NFL, and it doesn't take we gotta stay the process, we gotta stay the course. It doesn't. No NFL team should do that, because more likely than not, from what I've seen, it doesn't work, right? So you got the Lions, you got the Commanders, you also have the San Francisco 49ers. I mentioned on the stream, 2014 was the last year Jim Harbaugh. Jim Tom Sula takes over. He is not a good coach, 5-11, soft team, showing up late to practice, being on their phones and shit. 2016, Chip Kelly, he gets fired. 2017, the first 2 years of Kyle Shanahan is bad, but John Lynch is a good GM, and obviously he was able to finagle depth. And then the third year, after the 2 dog shit years, they make the Super Bowl. Now, obviously, they've made 2 Super Bowl appearances, multiple playoffs appearances as well, NFC Championship games and stuff like that. I mean, that's far more than where we are. We made 2 fucking wildcard games, 1 playoff win in 12 years, and we're keeping these guys as a result of it. Like, Diana Rossini put out a tweet that said something along the lines of, I don't know what's more shocking to people around the league, the staying of Trent Baalke or the staying of Joe Schoen. Trent Baalke's another one that shouldn't really have a job in the NFL. Horrible executive. But back to the Giants, I mean, it's more worried about optics and like the brand rather than actually getting it right. The optics and being fair seem like they override any other like rightful decision in John Mara's head. Because the thing that probably comes to him is obviously, number one, Daniel Jones got 6 years. And what they're saying, he's probably saying to them is, okay, go get your quarterback because I hypothetically forced Daniel Jones on you. Dave Gettleman got 4 years, so Joe Schoen's going to get, that too. Again, I think Gettleman, he was a horrible GM in free agency, but I will give him the slightest bit of credit that he knew how to scout and pick talent in the draft. Joe Schoen has not whatsoever proven how to do that, and I think he's kind of riding on Jerry Reese levels. And Jerry Reese won 2 Super Bowls. Joe Schoen has not won anything. So, like, it's just so fucked, this situation. And there's so many, as I said, there's so many like bad segments, bad avenues that could go down. What I want to talk about is the Mara press conference, and it was pretty interesting in the wrong ways possible. I didn't hear John Mara speak. I didn't hear the press conference. I got it from the beat reporters that were saying shit, and the content creators and etc. Because I really don't have the patience just to listen to that, and I was working a double So I really was not in the mood. And I was also tired. So the main takeaways are this. The defense, John Mara didn't like. He didn't like the defense. That's a little odd because, and I'm not some Shane Bowen guy. Like, I would get rid of him in a heartbeat, though the perception wouldn't be good. But the defense was not the issue this year. There are parts where it was an issue, like in the running game. But I'm not trying to bail out Shane Bowen here. Because, again, I don't really care to defend the guy. But when you look realistically at the defense, look how many guys underachieved, whether it's scheme or their own doing. Bobby Okereke was not good this year. He was league average at best, and Micah McFadden was a guy that stepped in, and he looked like the better linebacker. I mean, Dex was doing Dex things. You know, you really like that. Brian Burns, I mean, that was a great Joe Schoen decision, paying a good edge rusher, great edge rusher money. So, you know, that one you especially put on the general manager. You have Deonte Banks, who it's a lose-lose situation for him unless he has this epiphany in his play where he comes out and plays like an absolute stud in year 3, which not really putting my coins on, because year 1 he was okay. He had some struggles against number ones. But the second season, this season, was absolutely horrendous under Shane Bowen. Seems like he didn't fit the scheme at all. I wanted Joey Porter Jr., but par for the course in this argument is, boom, guess what? Joe Schoen picked him. He was not a fit for the system. The safety play, like Tyler Nubin was expected to be this ball hawk. I didn't really see what the hype was about him. Like, that's the most overhyped, overrated draft pick of Shane's 2024 class. That's my personal opinion. I didn't think the safety play was anything to write home about because, I mean, the safety play, 1 interception, and we were supposed to be like given this whole narrative. Oh, you know, he interchanges safeties. He plays with these 3 safeties, but it didn't really like show up anywhere. Like Nubin made a couple of TFLs, but like that's it. That's not really what Nubin was brought in to do. Nubin was brought in to be this ball hawk. He had 6 interceptions the last year at Minnesota, and he had none this season. I think the Giants had 2, maybe 3 interceptions this entire year, which is absolutely horrendous. Yeah, they forced fumbles, but for what, right? Kayvon Thibodeau. You could say, oh, he was injured, all this, that, and the other thing. I told people. I literally told people, but people didn't want to listen because they were so much on the Wink is bad train, all these other nonsenses. They were so like narrative driven that they didn't see the wood from the trees. I said when Wink got fired, I said, good luck, Kayvon Thibodeau, getting double-digit sacks in any other system, because he cannot consistently beat one-on-one battles between him and the offensive tackle. And a lot of the sacks that he got were, I don't want to say coverage sacks, he beat a lot of backups, and also there was minced pressure like blitzes and shit that Wink Martindale would create where Kayvon was a free guy. And that's where he got his 11.5 sacks. And people point at that and they're like, well, you know, he was they congratulate him on being the first edge rusher in a Wink system to go get that many sacks. Like, cool. Was he a Pro Bowler? No, he was not. Like, he had some good games against Washington, against the Jets. Like, I believe, at least from what I saw in the stats, like, most of his career sacks are against Washington. Does that really mean anything to me? No, it doesn't, because, you know, you drafted him 5th overall to be a game changer. He is very, 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 very far from a game changer. And you would not have to trade for Brian Burns if Kayvon Thibodeau was the guy you drafted him to be. You know, in the first 2 years, you could probably tell top 5 pick. Is he a game changer? Is he not a game changer? So Banks, Okereke, and Thibodeau are like my top 3 underperformers. So rather than blaming Shane Bowen, and again, for the 90th time, I'm no Shane Bowen fan, I'd look to get another defensive coordinator because I'm not a fan of his fucking scheme, is look at the talent that was put on the fucking field. Like, look at the talent, look who performed, look who didn't perform. That's just as simple as that. So I don't get this whole thing that the defense sucks. Number 2 is Daboll play calling, right? This one is a little odd to me. And it puts the Giants in a weird pigeonhole situation, which they kind of have already done. Either Daboll insisted that he does not play call anymore, or Mara brought it up, and then there was some sort of a mutual agreement, which is I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with him moving off the play calling. If anything, I predicted it because they're probably going to get a new offensive coordinator. But at that point in the game, if you're complaining about the defense, the style of the defense, the defensive coordinator, the fourth option that your head coach hired, and you're complaining about the style of the offense and the play calling that Daboll is doing, he is the head coach. Why is he back? Why are these guys back? When you look at it intricately and go through every detail, it's just negatives on almost every avenue, the slightest positive, the slightest. I don't have any confidence that these guys can turn it around. And again, it just goes to show that this organization has completely ignored the fan base, and the fans are not always right. But at the end of the day, 3-14, league's worst, I wouldn't say league's worst record, though then again too, yeah, it actually is the league's worst record, but Tennessee obviously was rebuilding, so they didn't have any expectations. And the Browns were like a minced meat organization this year. But worst record in franchise history. You celebrated 100 years. You complain about the defense, which wasn't entirely the problem. You're looking into the style of the defense and not the actual personnel that was brought in or underachieving. And then you complain about Daboll's play calling. So why not just get rid of the head coach? So why not just get rid of these guys in general? That's a problem. We don't have, in my opinion, this could be an addition in years to come, but I don't see it right now. I think the Giants need a president of football operations, because that president of football operations could oversee different things that are going on, like an Ozzie Newsome. He could oversee things that are going on, and he could be able to make those calculations. Okay, well, this guy brought in the talent, and it didn't really work on the defense. Maybe he should be on the hot seat. Daboll's play calling was garbage, though he ripped it away from Kafka. Maybe he should go as well. But the Giants really don't have that. So there's that. And what's really interesting before I get to this next point, and then we talk about some other scenarios, is there's a theory, fan fiction it could be, it might not be. I want to know, personally, how in the world John Mara changed his mind. If he did at all, it doesn't mean that he did or he didn't, whatever. I'm not in his brain. I don't know. I don't talk to him. I would just like to know, what changed your mind? You had 2 wins, and then you lost 10 straight, and then the reports came out about Brian Daboll probably getting the axe. And then he proceeds to win a game, and that changes your mind. You had the feelers come out from Paul Schwartz and all these different cats about retaining Joe Schoen and firing Brian Daboll. I just don't get it. What was it had to be more than liking Daboll. My process of a thought is that John Mara somehow either knew or drew a little conclusion that any of these candidates, and don't tell me, there's no good candidates on the market. Is anyone going to be better than Daboll? You don't know that until you know, right? Because we might be sitting here for another 2 years, and these guys get fired, and we could see Ben Johnson doing things, Liam Cohen doing things, Mike Vrabel doing things. And I know he's rumored to New England, but that's not really the talking point. While we're sitting here looking for another head coach and a general manager, Those guys are doing things for other organizations and they're building sustained success. And we're at the train station. The train has left about 2 years ago and it is not coming back. So, like, did they figure out that those candidates would be less attracted to the job? Not only because you got the third pick and not the first or second, so you're not guaranteed a quarterback like Shador or Cam Ward, but because they didn't want to be in a situation where they're under pressure and their personnel that they bring in is under pressure because Joe Schoen was so fucking horrible at his job. The first 3 seasons, he couldn't build a roster. He couldn't make other decisions. And he's going to hire another head coach, and that head coach is going to be like, leaning on a lame duck GM for a year or two. So I think that's the conclusion that John Mara drew. And it's the wrong conclusion to draw. It's like it's the right conclusion to draw, but at the same time in the wrong. Why not just fire both? If you're limiting yourself to candidates because you want to keep Joe Schoen, because you think Joe Schoen has been a darling, I don't know what to tell you. You must be seeing out of some different glasses than I am, some different lenses, because that's not the way I see it. I see Joe Schoen as an incompetent general manager, someone who's not good at his job, someone who hasn't been good at his job his entire 3 years here. So, and supposedly Mike Garafolo said this. I think a lot of people on the beat are kind of rejecting it. The word is playoff mandate. Let me explain something. Obviously, bringing these guys back was terrible from Jump Street. Everybody knows that. What I will say is this. If you're going to playoff mandate this regime for 2025, you're asking yourself to be in cap hell. Possibly. Because Joe Schoen, if it's a playoff mandate like we all think it is, or at least, some people might Garafolo too, what Joe Schoen's going to do is he knows his job is going to be on the line. Right? He's going to overspend in free agency. Maybe the giant tax will be a thing, like the jet tax is. He's going to go get a quarterback, maybe like a Sam Darnold or someone along those lines. Maybe he'll draft somebody like a Jackson Dart in the later rounds or something like that. He'll take probably Travis Hunter or any of the other guys in the top 10. So what he'll do is to have more cap, he'll probably restructure some contracts, cut some people. And with that, he will know that it's basically an all-in year, and if I don't make the playoffs, I get fired. So, honestly, I don't give a shit about the ramifications the following year for cap, which would essentially do what Joe Douglas did to the Jets, what Jerry Reese did to the Giants, and what Dave Gettleman did to the Giants. And that's put them in a horrible situation, put the next regime in a horrible situation, and then it's another 2 years of fixing the cap, rebuilding, trading guys, getting assets, all these other different things. And that's not a good situation you want to be in. So that's how it's bad to have a playoff mandate. How it's bad to bring these guys back and not have a playoff mandate is, I don't expect to go to the playoffs next year. That's not the record of putting out. I have to kind of put my frustration aside with this team because I know they're not going to win 9-10 games. They're probably going to win between 3 and 6 at best. That's just my personal opinion based off the schedule and the talent we have in the building. But what if the situation is so bad that John Mara goes into his bag of tricks and mistakes and he does what he did to Pat Shurmur to where, or maybe he does it to Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll gets to pick the GM like Adam Gase did. What if the roster is so bad and guys underperform around the rookie quarterback and, you basically need your rookie quarterback to save your job, right? So it's not just the roster around the rookie quarterback. It's the rookie quarterback needs to be good. Like, I don't think Pat Shurmur got fired because of Daniel Jones. I think he got fired for a multitude of reasons, including Dave Gettleman throwing him under the fucking bus. But I'm not ruling it out that Joe Schoen would sell out his soul to save his ass and fire Daboll, or the opposite, if shit gets going tough in 2025. But again, like, the only slightest positive you could possibly think of when getting a rookie quarterback in 2025 is they finished 2 years out. You should probably know within 2 years if that rookie quarterback is good or not, right? I mean, 2 years is 2 years. It's not like you're spending 6 years on fucking Daniel Jones. Hopefully people in that organization keep their paws off and let these guys do their thing. Not that it's this great thing that they're doing, but just the central point, right? So they have 2 years, build up the roster like you should have the first fucking 3 years, draft your quarterback this year, not next year, this year, right? Not next year. Because if you don't draft a quarterback this year, then you should be out the fucking door automatically. But hey, listen, I was given shit for that opinion in 2024. They'll have 2 years, assumingly, pick their quarterback. If he's not good by year 2 and the team fails, their asses are out. And, we're at the same square we were in 2021, 2022. But the problem is that we're behind all these other teams. I bet you if that's the scenario where we're back at square one in 2026, 2027, what's going to happen is you'll see like, oh, the Patriots are doing good with Mike Vrabel maybe, or this team's doing good with Liam Cohen. Why? Because they hired them. Those teams didn't stick to incompetence. So those are my thoughts on the first, the last 2 years of their contract and stuff like that. And Joe Schoen, just some quotes from the press conference. By the way, the Giants are expected to bring Tommy DeVito back because he's an exclusive rights free agent. I don't really get that. I mean, really none of these quarterbacks should come back considering that it was so bad this year. No Hail Marys. Let's put that one in the books, right? Just like the one with you don't pay a $40 million quarterback to hand off to a $12 million running back. Just remember that one too. But no Hail Marys. Joe Schoen says he needs to assemble a roster with more talent. It's not like he had the first 3 fucking years to do that. Right? It's not like he had the first 3 years to do that. Yeah, so that's all the Shane shit I have, to be completely honest with you. And, like, I'm going to read out a list of, and this is probably where it's going to end, but here are a couple of coordinators that probably would be interested in the Giants' job. First of all, I assume that Shane Bowen's going to go. I think there's a possible shot that he maybe reunites with Mike Vrabel wherever he goes. But DC candidates, it's like each one of them has like an image problem, in my opinion. Eberflus, I mean, he wasn't great at all with a decent, talented, I'm not saying great talented, but decent talented roster, right? So there's that, but defensively, when he was the defensive coordinator of the Colts, he did a decent job. That's why he got hired by the Bears. So that's one. Robert Saleh. Because of what has gone on with the Giants, I feel as though I'm opening up to the idea of Robert Saleh. Like, he was a issue with the Jets. The Jets are an incompetent organization, as we all know them. But he wasn't like the issue. I think it's 4 people. Joe Douglas, Aaron Rodgers, Robert Saleh and his soft mentality, and then you have Woody Johnson, who pretty much oversees everything. But Robert Sala's like inspirational quotes and stuff like that. He is a defensive coordinator. The problem with him, and I think Eberflus might have this issue too, can't say for sure, and the next guy probably will, is you'd have to switch up your system to a 4-3. Now, guaranteed, the Giants switched from 4-3 to 3-4 in 2018, and they have not gone back since. But I think the Giants only had one good year of run defense. And if we're talking about smash mouth, defense style football or whatever, the people wish to have for the New York Football Giants and all that nonsense, you're going to have to make some changes personnel-wise, right? I don't know if Kayvon Thibodeau is going to benefit. I don't think he will benefit from being a 4-3 defensive end. Brian Burns, it's possible. I think Dex could fit fine. I don't know about the linebackers. The Giants under Saleh would probably switch to a zone defense again and just generate pressure with 4. Obviously he had a good system in San Fran, and when he came over to the Jets defense was good. And then when they fired him, Jeff Ulbrich was the prime. I mean, I think Ulbrich was play calling anyway, but just the handle on the defense was totally lost. So that's why Saleh does. I don't want to say excite me, but he provides something there. I don't know that he'd be willing to come back to a New York market though that kind of shredded him for 4 years. The next guy is a New York native by the name of Lou Anarumo. Me personally, I don't like this choice. The Giants could choose it possibly because A, he went to Wagner, and B, he was a defensive back coach. But I don't really like this choice. I've never really thought the defense in Cincinnati was something to write home about. They had players. Troy Hendrickson obviously signed a couple of years ago. Sam Hubbard. They've turned B.J. Hill into a player. But Logan Wilson too. I've just never seen them as oh wow, that's a really impressive defense. I can't really get on that boat. So Eberflus, Saleh, Anarumo, and then you probably have to trust some guy from college or some linebacker or defensive line coach. And you really want to do that when there's a possible mandate for the playoffs? I don't think so. Now, as far as the offensive coordinator position, Josh McCown is one of them because he's the QB coach for Sam Darnold. You're probably not going to get Wes Phillips. It would be a miracle, but probably not going to happen. Doug Peterson, if he's looking to be an offensive coordinator, but I mean, he came under the same system that Mike Kafka was, the Andy Reid system. So, a lot of people nowadays would want to grab somebody from the San Fran, Shanahan, or McVay tree. Not many coaches are looking at the Reid tree anymore. Well, not many organizations look at the Reid tree anymore, or the Belichick tree, or this tree, or that tree. They're probably looking at the Shanahan or McVay tree. The best you could try to do is bring over Michael LaFleur from the Rams, but I don't know if he's an assistant head coach. And he's another guy that probably was scarred a little bit by the New York media because the first 2 years he served under Robert Saleh as the OC. So, maybe he learned something. Maybe he learned a couple of things under Sean McVay. But, it's a very, very short list. Okay, he is not the assistant head coach. He's just OC. Right. But you have to start garnering position coaches at the quarterback position. You're not going to hire a wide receiver coach or an O-line coach to be your offensive coordinator, or you hire Shea Tierney. Personally, I think Mike Kafka's gone. I don't really think that there's a purpose for him here. I know he's got 1 year left on the contract, but if you're getting rid of the staff, get rid of the fucking staff. That's the way I see it personally. And you could keep Gobriel if you want. But at the end of the day, I just don't see a point in Mike Kafka being here. I'd love for him to get another job. Like if he goes to, Chicago, gets the job, or goes to Seattle, gets an OC job, and the Giants just let him walk. That's fine. Like I didn't like his play calling, but then when I saw, a lot of the intricacies within like the failures of the offense, like Kafka was the least to blame. But that's pretty much it, folks, for this podcast episode. We'll probably be doing OC and DC candidates sometime soon once we figure out if Shane Bowen is retained or not. Same thing goes with Mike Kafka. I'm going to see if I'll do that in a video or a podcast episode. We're trying to pump out content, of course, a little bit more. We're on our way to 2,200. We'll be going to the Senior Bowl at the end of the month, so that's going to be a lot of fun. But appreciate you guys for sticking in all season. It's been a tough ride for all of us. The people who've been tuning in just have to listen to the same nonsense. And then, the people who cover the team because they're repeating the same nonsense every week. So anyway, I appreciate you guys so much. And keep in tune with the YouTube channel. Keep in tune with the content. And keep in tune with the social media. Talk to you guys later.